Venezuela's opposition coalition won a big victory in elections over the weekend. But what can they actually achieve in Maduro's Venezuela? Center for Democracy and Development in the Americas CEO Leopoldo Martinez, who is a former opposition member of the Venezuelan National Assembly, joins the show. Leopoldo, let's start with the practicalities here. They have a supermajority, but what can they actually achieve?
Well, the supermajority, in addition to the regular powers that you have with a simple majority or an absolute majority, allows the opposition to go further in terms of controlling the government. For instance, they can promote votes of censorship against ministries or cabinet members, including the vice president, and get them removed from their positions. And that is an interesting power they have. They could reform the laws that organize public powers. You know, the Supreme Court had been packed over the past few years by the then majority that the government had in the assembly. And they could actually start working on judicial reform and other institutional reforms in the country without any possibility of being questioned or challenged constitutionally, because they have the supermajority required.
Well, you're speaking of the government as if it's the United States government, and yet we know that an autocrat runs Venezuela, that the military has quite a big influence, and that there's influence from Cuba as well. So what really is the scope of the parliamentary power in Venezuela today?
Well, that's one of the biggest challenges that we are going to see taking place in Venezuela for the opposition. Can they reclaim independence and autonomy for the legislative branch in Venezuela with all the adversity that you are pointing out? We can anticipate conflicts of power. We can anticipate the president using veto power, and then that going to the hands of the constitutional chamber of the Supreme Court and become a very conflicting scenario. And yes, you mentioned the Cubans, which deserve a particular comment. Cuba is also looking into a different direction now. The relation between Cuba and Venezuela, yes, has a political implication, but was also grounded on economic facts. Venezuela had been subsidizing the Cuban economy and other Caribbean economies over the past few years because the barrel of oil permitted that. But that's no longer the case. So I don't think that influence of the Cubans today it's responding to the same agenda that we had seen over the past 10 years because of the economic circumstances today.
Leopoldo, why are we even talking about this? What would a stable, democratic Venezuela mean for the region, mean for the United States' interest in the region?
It means a world, because on the one hand, it's no secret that Venezuela has been trying to exercise influence in getting some of the countries in the region to follow their model of authoritarian or neo-authoritarian populism, and that is no longer possible. On the other hand, the Venezuelan situation has an implication to the Caribbean, has an implication to Colombia peace process that is also on the works, and has an interesting implication also in Central America, Nicaragua and beyond. So Venezuela has been for years a very important democracy that has worked under the framework of the OAS and the United Nations to promote values, human rights, and democracy. But for this past 15 years, that's the only period in Venezuela's history where Venezuela has departed from its commitment to the international community to promote democracy, human rights, and freedoms. We were, in Venezuela, we were a country that exported democracy and values throughout the region.
Well, let's hope
not so in the past 15 years.
Well, let's hope that Venezuela once again becomes a country like that promotes democracy and freedom. We're going to keep an eye on it. Leopoldo Martinez, thank you for joining. Thank you for joining the show.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.